Hey everyone, Robert Ferringo of Doc Sports here with your NFL Week 3 predictions and preview. With me once again is Ryan Sebring. We will get to Ryan in 1 minute, but first, got to pay them bills. If you enjoy these videos, be sure to like and subscribe to the Doc Sports YouTube channel, one of the most informative and best sports information and sports betting channels on the internet. Also, take advantage of that free $60 link that is down in the description. That is $60, same as cash, to be used at DocSports.com. Now, for example, Doc Sports Handicappers' top football games each week are $30 a piece. So with that $60, you can get 2 top games. So for instance, you could get Strike Point Sports 8-unit NFL Game of the Year, which goes off this Sunday, and you can get someone's 7-unit college football top game on Saturday. Get them both absolutely free. You are welcome. Okay, Ryan, let's get into this. Week 3.
I'm ready.
We're done looking back. We are now looking ahead. We're doing this video on Wednesday. Normally, we're going to be doing this video on Tuesday, so there's already been a little bit more movement in the lines than normal. But when you looked at those lines for Week 3 on Sunday night, Monday morning, whatever, what jumped out at you? What was the first things that jumped out?
The same exact way that Seattle jumped out to me on the road at Detroit last week. The Broncos on the road this week at the Dolphins. So now we've totally given up on the Broncos, who just blew a lead at home. They're 0-2. Dolphins look good at time on the road at New England, who you said gave them a tough game. I'll take that 6.5. I might even take the Broncos. How about this? Because I got to make up for giving that lame Philadelphia pick last week. I'm thinking the Broncos money line.
Wow, flamethrowing right away. And listen, that wasn't a bad call on Philadelphia last week. If they don't give up that garbage backdoor cover,
yeah, but
they get that.
It's a bottom line world. It's a bottom line world, and the bottom line was I didn't come through. But I did, and honestly, to get back to what we're talking about in Week 2, it's going to be, I see another week of 12 games decided by one score or less. Yes, there's some double-digit spreads that we're going to talk about, but man, there's some tough sledding. And like I said, I look at that Falcons-Lions game, the Bucks game, the Rams on the road at Cincinnati, Redskins at home against Buffalo. To me, once I get a little bit more information, right, Bobby, I'm close to being able to look and stuff jumping off the page at me, but it still looks like tough sledding to me going into tough 3. How about yourself?
Okay, the thing that jumped out at me, you just kind of touched on it. There wasn't a single game I can say. There's a couple of games that I liked, a couple of things that the way I like to handicap is, going into Week 2, I'm like, okay, if this, knowing what the Week 3 games are, I'm like, okay, if this, or this happens in Week 2, I'm looking to bet these teams.
It's setting the stage for you for Week 3. Yep.
Yes. But what jumped out at me was not a single game or situation in Week 3. It's exactly what you talked about, how big the numbers are. We've had so many one-score games. And then you look at this. We have the 49ers double-digit favorites. The Jaguars just about double-digit favorites. Cowboys, Kansas City. But not just those games. You have a lot of other games. The Miami game, the Washington game, the Ravens game. You got a bunch of other games with spreads around a touchdown. It's like the first Week 1 and Week 2, everywhere you looked, 3-point spread, 2-point spread, 3-point spread, 1-point spread, all these small numbers. Week 3, all the numbers have blown up. Okay, all these spreads are massive. We always thought Week 2 was like the overreaction week in the NFL, right? Maybe it's Week 3. Maybe it's 0-2 versus 2-0 type of thing. But that's
hopefully we can take advantage and find some great underdog opportunities, right? And
let's start with the biggest. Let's start with the biggest underdogs of those big 4. Okay, the Giants, Texans, Arizona, and Chicago. Is there anyone that you love the underdog? Is there anyone that you actually love the favorite and you think the spread could be double what it is and it still matter? Like what do you think at when you look at those 4 monster spreads?
I did some research. Well, because of your classic overreaction with the Bears, I simply love the Bears as my favorite of all those active underdogs and those big spreads. I don't trust the Jags to win, but I know they're an emerging organization and we like the quarterback and everything, but I would stay away from that. in that Dallas-Arizona game, I feel like Arizona's been in this spot before as a big underdog against Dallas and played them really well. So I don't really want to get in the habit of betting against Dallas this year, but if I had to, this would be a spot, and I would take Arizona in the 12, absolutely. But of the games of the big spread where I would probably drop the hammer, and I feel reluctant to say this because like my instinct tells me if I did no research that the Giants would be a very active underdog on the road at San Francisco. But I'm just thinking they just played at Arizona. They have a short turnaround. They have to go Thursday night. And I have a couple trends for you, which I think is the 49ers. Where'd I put my notes? Just some unbelievable where they're 13-2. Yeah, where am I?
10-1 against the spread at home as a home favorite. I know that's one of them. Daniel Jones is 8-11 straight up without Saquon Barkley. Sorry, what else you got for me?
Yeah, I'm trying to pull it up here because it's important. But there's some really strong trends. 13-2 for the Niners in their last 15 at home, including 7 in a row against the spread. 17-4 against the spread in their last 21 conference games. And then there was one more kind of a little anomaly stat that I wrote down for that, which is the over is 8-1 in the Giants' last 9 games on week 3.
Interesting. I don't make a habit of betting.
That's a little anomaly,
over.
but
Yeah, I don't make a habit of betting over on those Thursday night games because we usually see some real sloppy football. But then again, last Thursday's game kind of turned into a shootout. The Giants look pathetic. I don't care that they won. They were supposed to win. They were favored. Arizona's the worst team with the worst roster, and they got down 20-0 at halftime, 28-7. I don't give them credit for coming back and winning. The Giants looked awful. So there's absolutely no way. I agree with you. 10 years ago, the Giants, this is a very Giant spot, right? Like this is when the Tom Coughlin Giants would show up. They haven't been that team. They haven't been that organization in about 6 or 7 years. This is the type of spot where they get blown out 40-3. Okay, you talked about the Cowboys. How about this for a number? You're right. We have been here before with the Cardinals. Arizona is 6-1 against the spread in their last 7 against Dallas. They're 7-2 against the spread at home against the Cowboys. And I know you remember this game, the Jake Plummer playoff game, baby, back in the late 90s. Ever since Arizona pulled that upset, I believe it was in 98 or 99, Arizona is 11-7 straight up against the Cowboys. First, the fact that they've played 18 times in like 25 years, that's a lot. Like they're not in the same division. So that's a good amount of times facing one another. And Arizona has kind of held up well in this kind of rivalry. But you said it. You know the Cowboys inside and out. Do we really want to bet against this team right now, no matter what the number is? I mean, they look like
they've been a covering machine. I feel like the last season, because they've always been. I felt like they had a rolling 10 or 15 years where Dallas, if you were betting on them, all you were doing was you were burning cash. So now maybe the trend. That's why I'd be scared because they seem like a buzzsaw, but I feel like there was a game in the last couple of years where Dallas came out and immediately fell behind 14-0, and the Arizona defense was swarming, and there was never a chance of them winning by double digits. So I've seen this before. I would expect Arizona to play really tough. Hopefully Dallas wins, but that 12 just seems awfully aggressive. But these are situations where if the Chiefs and Dallas and if they blow these teams out, then we can really buy in that they are elite type of teams that aren't playing down their competition. But I still think it's a National Football League. And my last thought, I think the Bears, you hate their defense. This is the week they play better. So, and then you're going to feel better.
Let's drill down on that one. Do you think that you like that game? Is it more that you are buying all the Bears stock that people like me are dumping? The Bears were a team that, I've said this before, I had no illusions about them being a player in the NFC and making the playoffs and all this stuff, but I thought they would be a vastly improved team. They, $90 million in free agency that they spent. They had a decent draft. Good, I thought they were better than they played last year. So I'm buying Bears stock all offseason. They have looked awful schematically, coaching-wise, Justin Fields, all of this. They've looked terrible the first 2 weeks. So are you just coming in and scooping up all that Bear stock that people like me are dropping? Or is this more just kind of that Kansas City fade? The Chiefs are 1-8 against the spread as a favorite of 11 or more points. They have not performed well as a double-digit favorite. And they're 5-13 against the spread in their last 18 regular season games. They win, they just don't blow teams out. So which kind of side of the I'm sure it's a combination of both, but
I'll just say a little bit of both.
Like
That's it.
You like the
I think the Bears can be a decent football
or?
team. I think the Bears can be a decent football team. I think Kansas City is a good football team. I think it's a credit to them that they win games 17-9. Because you close your eyes and people think of Mahomes and their dynamic offense. So to go on the road against a pretty good AFC team and grind out a win. But I just feel like the Bears overall are in the mix with a lot of teams. Like I said, that when you're an 8-9, 9-8 type of team, you're not going to have a lot of 4 and 5 game win streaks. So as soon as we buy into one of these teams like the Falcons or the Seahawks, a lot of these different groups, then the next week they're going to, we're going to turn against them, because as soon as we believe and have trust in them, they're going to shoot us in the foot. And I just feel like the Bears have gotten off this poor start, but to the point that they're going to win 3 or 4, let's say in October, and then you'll look in December and they'll be there in the mix with a lot of these other teams that you may have a better feeling about them right now after 2 weeks, but you'll feel worse about them and better about the Bears. But in Kansas City, are they capable of like hammering teams by double digit because they're a fading organization? I don't know if they're fading per se, but I don't think they are as dynamic. Simply without Tyreek Hill and some of those pieces, and they have to win a different way. And I definitely think there's a ton of value in that. Is it 12.5 or did that come in?
That number's actually been coming down. It opened around 13. I thought I saw 13.5 maybe before the week 2 games were played. So it was right around 13. It's been coming down. I thought I saw some 12s here on Wednesday afternoon, even though the majority of the action is coming in on Kansas City. Little bit of a reverse line movement on that one. I think people are just kind of catching on to that trend that we mentioned, that Kansas City just doesn't cover the spread during the regular season. 5-13 against the spread in their last 18. They seem to do just enough to beat people. And when you got a big fat number like that, that.
And the Bears defense hasn't. Real quick, the Bears defense hasn't played well, but the roster better. What type of group is it? Can they play better?
Okay,
or they are what they are, and it's worrisome?
What's worrisome to me is that first of all, what's worrisome to me is their scheme. They're playing that soft, 2 deep cover 2. They are not blitzing. They're not putting any pressure on people. Okay. As a result, they just got chewed up by Jordan Love and Baker Mayfield because their front 4 isn't good enough to only rush 4. If they had a front 4, like let's say Carolina, New Orleans, Dallas, if they had a front 4 that could get pressure, then okay, I could see the scheme. They don't. They have one of the worst pass rushes in the NFL. They had one of the worst pass rushes in the NFL last year. They didn't spend any money on the offensive line. They drafted a couple rookie defensive tackle, but they're not pass rushers. So they're not getting any pressure. If you don't get pressure on Patrick Mahomes and you're just sitting back trying to play 2 deep zone stuff against him, you're going to get chewed up. Also, Jaquan Brisker and Eddie Jackson, the Bears' 2 safeties, they're both hurt. At one point in the Tampa Bay game, they were both out of the game, which is part of the reason they got chewed up on the outside by Mike Evans. I think they're both going to play this week. Neither one of them is 100%. So it's a mix of bad personnel and bad scheme right now for Chicago. And I just have a feeling that this could potentially be kind of a get-right game for Patrick Mahomes and company. And maybe you're right. Maybe the Bears come out, maybe they take an early lead. Maybe they're kind of hanging around by 7 points in the fourth quarter. But I just haven't seen anything from them to make me think that Kansas City wouldn't outscore them 10-0 in the fourth quarter, win by 17, like 34-17 maybe, in a game that was a lot closer than that. But the Bears just, they don't look good. That's why I don't like the Giants, going back to it, is that I'm going with my eyes. You're right. Over the course of a 17-game season, the Giants are going to have some weeks. The Bears are going to have some weeks. But just these are 2 teams that I've watched very closely in these first 2 weeks, and they both just look pathetic. And until I see something different, I'm going to bet with what I'm seeing. And then when I'm wrong, be like, you know what? Okay, I'm wrong. They've turned it around. Now what do we do with them going forward? But until I see anything resembling competence from these 2 teams, That's the only way to bet it.
Well, and look at the trends with San Francisco. Yeah, are so strong. Go ahead, Bobby.
I was just going to shift gears for a second. A game that didn't make the cut of these monster spreads, but a game that you've touched on in both of our videos that I want to get some of your thoughts on. Indianapolis going to Baltimore. That spread started at 8.5. It's actually coming down. I'm seeing it at 7.5 now. Now, this is the second rookie quarterback in 3 weeks that Baltimore is getting in Baltimore. One of the best home field advantages in the NFL. Yep. They're coming off a big division win over Cincinnati. Do they have a little bit of a letdown here, or are they just going to dominate another rookie quarterback that isn't ready for action? Or if Anthony Richardson can't go, which right now he's questionable, and I think he won't go, will they be able to take advantage of Gardner Minshew here?
I feel like Minshew came in last week and was like 17-21. I don't have it in front of me, but I felt like he was sharp. And you're excited about Indianapolis's offense. And you were talking about them schematically, talent-wise. You like what you see from that group. You know, I lived in Baltimore for a long time. I'm in a text group with a lot of my brother's friends and stuff from my hometown. And I should just share your thoughts on how they, when we're watching a Ravens game, how they react to things. But even like the hometown fans wouldn't trust this team to win by 2 scores, let alone against the team that picked up and rolled out of town. So there's extra emotion with that, you know, because the Indianapolis Colts used to be the Baltimore Colts. But I would just simply say, if you look at the Ravens defensively, they have some injuries. That secondary is not elite. So if any team at all is bringing any offense to town, you know, the Ravens have heart and pass rush, but their secondary is leaky right now without some of their top talent, and the depth there isn't great. So, and I haven't done the hardest research, but if you're excited about Indianapolis's offense, when I looked at the lines for this week, I thought maybe that was too much, but now maybe liking it even more because why can't they go in there and even win the game? That's another game where that's a money line type of situation, even though the Ravens are the better team, don't get me wrong, but just talking about value opportunities.
Yeah,
I like it.
Listen, I like it. And I like the fact that you bring up that you're still connected with that team through a lot of their fans. And if their fans are a little skeptical, that would make me skeptical. I'm always big, like, if the home team's fans love the home team and they're expecting a blowout, I'm betting against them, right? If the home team's fans are skeptical and worried and nervous about a game, that would make me think twice about it. Now, staying in the NFC North, let's talk about these teams that played on Monday night. Okay, Pittsburgh going out to Las Vegas to face the Raiders. They have not beaten the Raiders in Los Angeles, Oakland, wherever the hell they play the Raiders on the road. They have not won on the road against the Raiders since 1995. That line, and this kind of surprised me, before the Monday Night Football game, the Steelers were 1-point road favorites against Las Vegas. Right now, where we sit Wednesday afternoon, Las Vegas is actually a 2-point home favorite in that game. That's a 3-point line movement on a team that won Monday night. Normally we see it go the other way. Thoughts on the Steelers and the Raiders?
Yeah, I mean, there's some conflicting trends in that one, but the overarching one is that the Raiders are 9-3 against the spread in their last 12 against the Steelers. It makes me a little nervous because the Steelers are 5-1 against the spread in their last 6. So they have a little bit of momentum going there, but 9-3 for the Raiders in their last 12. So, you know, that's a flip of a coin game to me, though.
I want no part of the Raiders laying points. That's for damn sure. And this is Pittsburgh's role. They're in that underdog role. Anytime Pittsburgh's in the underdog role, I'll jump on them. They're a little banged up after Monday night. That was a very physical, very emotional game. I know people are still selling very much the Steelers' offense, but you know what? They played 2 great defenses. That Cleveland defense is like top 5, top 6. That Cleveland defense is legit. Jim Schwartz is bringing pressure from everywhere. They have talent. Like, that defense is awesome. And before that, they played San Francisco, another top 5 defense. So this is going to be Kenny Pickett and George Pickens.
Top 5 defense? Maybe top 2 defense.
That's what I'm saying. So this is going to be their first chance to go up against a Raiders defense that can't stop anybody. So I don't know about that one. Well, okay, what about the Browns? All right, licking their wounds at home again, lose Nick Chubb. They're facing Tennessee. They are favored in this game against Tennessee. The Titans are 18-7 against the spread in their last 25 games as an underdog. They just upset the Chargers at home as an underdog. Vrabel loves being an underdog. What do you think?
If I had to make a play in that game, I would definitely take the Titans. Absolutely. Because I know the grinded nature of how that game is going to go, and there's probably not going to be a lot of separation. I don't love the value, but I certainly like Titans plus the 3 more than I like the Browns, like you said, after a war on Monday night. And normally Tennessee's a physical group. Now, I don't know as much about this team, but I would guess that he's bringing a physical group to town, and that's not going to be an easy team to play on a short rest.
Yeah, that's you nailed it. This probably will be a no play for me because I like the Titans in this situation, but I don't like the Titans in general, if that makes sense. If Cleveland were playing anybody else, like let's flip with Baltimore, right? If Indianapolis was coming to town, I think I'd be right back on Cleveland. I like their defense that much. I think they'll rally short term without Nick Chubb. I don't really blame them for losing to the Steelers. Bad situation. I actually thought they outplayed Pittsburgh for a long stretch of that game. So I still think there's some value with Cleveland. But Tennessee is like Pittsburgh light. Like they're going to come in and it's going to be the same type of knock them around, grind them out game. And I just don't know where Cleveland is physically and emotionally after that Steelers game. So, okay, another Monday night team that won. We got New Orleans heading to Green Bay. Now, New Orleans didn't look great offensively. I think Carolina's defense a little better than people realize. Yeah. But they won that. But New Orleans won that game. They're 2-0. They're playing Green Bay, which got outplayed by Atlanta last week. What's the line of thinking? Are people still undervaluing the Saints, or is this kind of a trap spot for New Orleans going on the road?
Man, I don't have anything. My spidey sense has nothing on this game at all. That's in my bucket of I'm just going to have to learn more about those teams, and see what can the Saints handle prosperity and go to 3-0 on the road in Green Bay, like you said, who you didn't love coming into the season, but you don't dislike them now. So that game is in my bucket of I want to see how that plays out, not just the final score, but how the game really plays out. Is one of those teams better than each other, or are they just, in the mix of 18 or 20 teams that on any given day, realistically have a 50-50 shot at beating each other?
Yeah, there's nothing wrong with that. This is a really good opportunity to have a little lesson to some of the novice bettors out there, right? Sometimes you got to know when to just throw a game out. All right, you need to look at the board, and if you don't have a feeling initially, if your spidey sense, like you said, doesn't tingle off, don't worry about it. Throw that game out of there. There's other games rather than trying to force action into something or talk yourself into something. If you don't like a game, don't like a game. But do what Ryan said and watch that game, see what the result is, see how that result comes about, and then use that information going forward. But like I said, I'll look at the NFL, and before I write down any of the games I like in any given week, there's probably 4 or 5 games I'm just like, nope. And I'm not even going to look at, I won't even look at them again the rest of the week because I want nothing to do with them. Okay. Was there anything else that you liked that jumped out at you? Were there any other games that you thought were interesting that you wanted to talk about? Maybe Denver, Miami, where we talked about, but maybe Chargers, Minnesota. We got that New England Jets game, Buffalo going to Washington.
So for my actual, so what I thought the big theme of this week is we're going to learn about 5 teams in particular. And I think that after this week with these 5 teams, we're really going to be able to have a better stance on that. Falcons and Lions, and they're playing each other. So Falcons coming into the year, we like them. We haven't loved what we've seen from them, even though they're 2-0. I think they can play well. That's a weird game because one trend is Detroit's been covering spreads. But if you look at the history of the Falcons versus Detroit, Atlanta is definitely historically that's where the value is. I want to learn more about the Buccaneers. We talked about them glancingly. They have a big game at home against Philadelphia. I feel like they might win that game. Why not? We haven't loved what we've seen from Philadelphia. We certainly don't believe anything that we've seen from Tampa Bay. There's nothing sexy there in our minds, but why couldn't they grind out a 27-24 win? And then all of a sudden the Bucs, and then the next team, the Rams, teams that were relevant a few years ago that we've left for dead. What if the Rams go on the road, beat Cincinnati? So a gun to my head, they're one of my picks. I think the Rams are going to do it. I think they are going to go on the road and win that game. And then the Redskins game. It's not just like the cover. It's like, can the Redskins really play the Bills tough? Because if they
you mean the Commanders? You mean the Commanders? I do it too. But yeah, go ahead.
If the Commanders play them tough in that game, then they might be who we think they could be, right? And if they that's another game. That's a 6.5 point, something like that, underdog, where I would take a money line shot at the Redskins. But that game makes me nervous because the fan base is excited about the new ownership. They're 2-0. They're in this big spot. I could also see the Redskins laying a huge egg and getting smoked. But those are the 5 teams, Falcons, Lions, Bucks, Rams, Redskins, that I think that when we look at next week after their results this week, we're going to have some clarity and we're going to find some value.
Okay, first thing you're going to do after this video is you're going to go into the bathroom, you're going to stare right into the mirror, and you're going to say Washington Commanders about 100 times. Look, we both grew up in the same era, so I find myself doing it also. I'm just busting on you about that. No, it's all right. It happens. So anyway, I think you're dead on accurate. Like that Atlanta Detroit game, I think could be a sneaky good game. Detroit has been fantastic against the spread over the last 2 years. I think they're 22-11 against the spread, something like that, in their last 33 games. They're also 3-0 against the spread in their last 3 games after a loss. That's kind of one of the underrated things about Dan Campbell and what he had this team doing last year, is that it's not like the old Lions where a loss would spiral, okay, and then the negative momentum would build. The last 3 times that they lost a game, they came back and won the next game. So I want to see how they bounce back from losing in overtime against Seattle, which was a great situation for Seattle. But Detroit showed a lot of heart even in that game, coming back to force overtime versus Atlanta, who, look, man, Bijan Robinson, if you haven't seen him yet, if you're not on the bandwagon, get on board because he's going to be a Pro Bowler this year. I want to say he's single-handedly won them the 2 games. He is the absolute truth. That guy is fantastic. And when he's getting 25, 30 touches a game, good things are going to continue to happen for the Falcons. Desmond Ridder on the road, though, but he is facing a soft defense in Detroit. I don't know. Interesting thing about that Tampa Bay game that you mentioned. That line opened at 6.5. That line is already down to 4.5. So a lot of sharp people are seeing exactly what you're seeing, which is, why not Tampa Bay? Okay, they got the defense. They're in prime time. They're at home. They're getting points. Philadelphia hasn't made anybody's socks roll up and down with their 2 wins the first 2 games. So I think that number may continue to drop. I wouldn't be surprised to see that floating around 3.5, 4 by kickoff right there. And with that Monday night game, one of the things I'm looking at points. Okay. If Joe Burrow doesn't play, that line is going to go haywire. Okay. And I like the Rams. I do. I don't know if Cincinnati can overcome.
I didn't even know that Burrow was a chance of not playing. Wow.
They're talking
I like the
about
Rams anyhow to win that game.
Yeah. I mean, I think he plays. Maybe he's hedging his bets a little bit for why he didn't play. He hasn't played particularly well in the first 2 weeks. Maybe it's legitimately bothering him, and that is why he's not playing so well. But there is definitely some talk about them throwing him on IR, letting him rest, and then trying to make a run late in the season. But either way, Burrow plays. I think the offense is going to be better against a susceptible Rams secondary. Right now, the Rams offense looks good. They look really, really good. Puka Nacua Nobody can cover him.
Yeah.
Like if Cooper Kupp comes back and is what he normally is, I don't know how you're going to stop that Rams offense. I honestly never thought I would say that because they have two guys that are seemingly uncoverable in Kupp.
Where's
and
Nakua? He's
Cooper.
from what, BYU?
Washington via BYU. Yeah, he was a nobody. He was an absolute nobody in college, and he's 25 catches, all these yards, setting all these records for rookie production to begin the season. But when you watch the Rams, they're not overwhelming with talent; they're overwhelming with scheme. And I haven't seen enough.
Love that coach. Yep.
Yeah, haven't seen enough from the Cincinnati defense. Remember, they got 2 new starting safeties. They're a little soft in the secondary. They've given up 24 plus points to the Ravens in Baltimore, hardly offensive juggernauts through the first 2 weeks. And, I think Cincinnati is in kind of a fragile mental space right now, don't you? Like, they're 0-2. Yeah. They just lost 2 divisional games. They're supposed to beat the Rams because the Rams stink. I think if Los Angeles comes in there and is a little feisty early, takes a 14-3 lead, takes a 10-0 lead, something like that, is Cincinnati going to have the willpower? Are they going to have the fight to kind of come back and win that game? So I think you're dead on with what you pointed out in these games. These situations are going to tell us a lot about these teams moving forward. So, all right, before I get you out of here, I'm going to put you on the spot, Ryan.
Yes, I'm ready.
Free play? Do you have a free play for the peoples? Give us a free play. What do you got?
It's like I hope last week that they took Seattle, and this week, once again, I'm going to reiterate it, Broncos. And I would money line it.
Boom.
Love it.
And
then my satellite plays, I'll throw in one more little teasers that I would take the Chargers in the coin flip over the Vikings too. It's just a little extra.
I can 100% see that. All right, people, he is Ryan Sebring. I am Robert Ferringo. We are Doc Sports. I hope you enjoyed this video. Again, be sure to like and subscribe to the Doc Sports YouTube channel. Turn on those notifications so you will be alerted the next time one of our videos comes up. Until next time, carpe diem and good luck.